Have you ever heard of the day when America was attacked by its own ally? Did you know that 34 American sailors were killed in broad daylight, not by enemies, but by those who called themselves friends? And did you know that, more than 50 years later, the full truth of that day still remains hidden beneath politics and silence? This is not a conspiracy. This is not rumor. This is history. June 8, 1967. The Six-Day War was raging in the Middle East. Arab armies clashed with Israel, and the world watched in shock as territory changed hands in mere hours. In the calm waters of the Mediterranean, the USS Liberty sailed on her mission, a U.S. Navy technical research ship equipped with antennas instead of heavy guns. Her task was to listen, to intercept signals. She was not there to fight. The crew felt secure. The weather was perfect. Visibility was unlimited. The American flag flew large and proud from her mast. To the men on board, it was unthinkable that anyone would target them. They believed they were safe. But by the end of that afternoon, the Liberty would become a floating hell. At exactly 2 p.m., the sky erupted. Israeli Mirage jets screamed down from above, unleashing rockets, cannon fire, and napalm. In seconds, the Liberty's deck was transformed into chaos. Explosions ripped through her sides, flames engulfed the deck, and sailors were cut down where they stood. Lieutenant James Entz, officer of the deck, remembered those moments for the rest of his life. We were clearly flying the American flag. The weather was perfect, visibility was unlimited. There was no way they didn't know who we were. And yet, they kept firing. The first wave of strikes crippled communications. The Liberty's radios went dead. The bridge was shattered. The deck was burning. Wounded sailors screamed for help. Yet the nightmare was only just beginning. Minutes later, fast-moving torpedo boats appeared on the horizon. They closed in quickly. One torpedo slammed into the starboard side, tearing open a 40-foot hole. 25 men were killed instantly. Water poured into the ship. Below deck, trapped sailors drowned where they stood. Some tried to lower lifeboats, their only chance of escape. But those rafts were deliberately riddled with machine gun fire, destroyed before they ever touched the water. Bryce Lockwood, a cryptologic technician, would never forget what he saw. "I saw men burned alive, torn apart by the blasts. The ship was a slaughterhouse, and still they strafed our lifeboats. No one can ever tell me it was a mistake. By every measure, the Liberty should have sunk." But somehow, she did not. Captain William McGonigal, gravely wounded and bleeding, refused to abandon ship. His men fought fires, carried the wounded, and kept their ship afloat against all odds. By the time the smoke cleared, 34 Americans were dead. 171 more were wounded. The Liberty was scarred nearly beyond recognition, but she survived. Then came the official story. Israel issued an apology, claiming it was all a tragic mistake, that they had confused the Liberty with an Egyptian ship. And the United States, despite the carnage, despite the fury of the survivors, accepted the explanation. But those who lived through it never believed that story. Larry Bowen, who later became president of the USS Liberty Veterans Association, spoke for many of his shipmates when he said, "For decades we were told to stay silent, to call it an accident. But I was there. I saw the carnage. The truth is, we were betrayed. And the cover-up still haunts us." The Navy's official inquiry lasted just 10 days. Key testimonies were ignored. Evidence was omitted. Even Captain McGonigal's Medal of Honor was quietly awarded, with no cameras present, and with no mention of who had attacked his ship. Years later, Admiral Thomas Moorer, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, broke the silence. He declared that the attack had been deliberate, and that Washington had buried the truth to protect political alliances. He pointed to strafed lifeboats, to the clearly visible American flag, and to the speed of the cover-up as proof. Declassified NSA recordings released decades later added more weight to the survivors' claims. They suggested that Israeli pilots had indeed identified the ship as American. Yet the attacks continued. Survivors insist the Liberty's profile was unmistakable. A massive vessel bristling with antennas, marked with bold hull numbers, and flying the stars and stripes. The Liberty did not sink that day, but the truth about what happened to her remains submerged, buried under layers of politics and denial. For more than half a century, Her survivors have carried the weight of silence. They have gathered at Arlington National Cemetery year after year to honor their fallen shipmates. They have spoken out, demanding answers. They have never stopped telling their story, even when they were told to forget. What happened on June 8, 1967, was more than a naval tragedy. It was a betrayal. It was a warning. When truth is buried, when voices are silenced, justice itself is wounded. The men of the USS Liberty were ordered to forget, but they never did. And neither should we. Their story is a reminder of the price of silence, and of the courage it takes to speak the truth. If you believe stories like this must be told and remembered, then join us in keeping history alive. Subscribe to this channel, share this video, and help us honor the voices that refuse to be silenced.